I do think that it is interesting what you have going on in Cleveland with respect to Baker Mayfield's situation and him having the torn labrum in the non-throwing shoulder. It is my information that he's dealing with something even beyond the tear, and he has received the medical, advice to take care of this shoulder. But as I just reported on CBS Sports HQ a couple hours ago, Baker Mayfield has several reasons to want to stay on the field when it comes to his contract. He did have his fifth-year option exercised in April. He is guaranteed his $18 million next season as a part of that, fifth-year compensation, but has not consummated any extension talks. And oh, by the way, neither has Lamar Jackson, drafted in the same class. But it's not unprecedented to have those conversations, wrapped up. You've had examples like Patrick Mahomes, Eric Fisher, both examples from the Chiefs who did get it done in the summer entering their fourth years. Baker still has that remaining. So if you do not play, you're not on the field. It certainly is not helping your case towards earning the extension. While I did have conversations even on my own show about everything that Baker Mayfield has done for the organization of Cleveland, when you think about what their record was before he started playing, he definitely deserves kudos for that. It's a separate conversation whether you think he is the transition quarterback for the organization, or is he should he be the quarterback moving forward when it comes to being the guy who's going to get them over the hump based on what they did last season going to the divisional playoffs. So he has some reasons to want to make sure he secures his long money, not just his compensation for 2022. So now, if for some reason that shoulder continues to bother him and it becomes to the point where he's really risking his own future, I would say that Andrew Berry has a very interesting decision to make with regards to that quarterback situation, because let's just play this out. Let's just say, and for everything I know, Odell Beckham Jr. is still a game time decision. That's the last thing I was told this morning. Let's just say Jarvis and Odell play. You got Jedrick Wills.
Jarvis is off of IR as of this recording, but I don't know that necessarily guarantees he plays.
Thank you. Exactly. So yes, he has been moved to the active roster. Last I was told he is a game time decision, although there is a source, telling me that he is going to play. But, I have another source saying he's a game time decision. I'm going to wait till I get, the definitive text when they actually get to the stadium. But I am expecting Jarvis to play. I am still waiting to ensure what way Odell is going. But the point that I'm trying to make is that if both of them are on the field together, you got Will's back going up against Von Miller. Hopefully he doesn't get eaten, Will.
That's right. But no, Vontae's going to kill whoever he played. I don't know who I'm playing at tackle. I'm going to kill them.
So hopefully Jedrick Wills actually makes it alive out of the game. So that'll be an interesting point to report on. But if for some reason, can you imagine, either one, it goes terribly bad because it's Case Keenum, then what does Barry do with respect to knowing what the real status is of Baker Mayfield? And that would be a consideration. And then particularly also if they win and that Baker Mayfield, situation is troublesome, what do you do? What's best for the team?
If Case Keenum lights it up and OBJ catches like 3 touchdowns, there is going to be pandemonium on Cleveland Sports Talk Radio tomorrow morning.
I definitely was saying that.
I know you are. I'm saying, but like people are going to be like, well, why would we pay Baker? We got Case Keenum started for the rest of the year. It'll be a weird, awkward situation.
But when you do look at Case Keenum's last start in December of 2019, I believe he was a member of the Washington football team, and they played at Dallas. He had a 48% completion percentage. It wasn't the greatest output by Case. So Case still, to me, needs to show that he can handle the pressure. He tends to wear down in the games, and it can kind of look not the greatest. So he has to really step up and show that Barry's made the right decision in keeping him as the backup quarterback. When there have been other options at quarterback over the years to do, to make a, more of a depth upgrade there. And he's stuck with Case.
I was going to say the interesting thing about Baker too, Josina, is that like with respect to the contract coming into this year anyway, like regardless of we knew he needed to play well and Cleveland needed to make a playoff run for him to get that, to have that discussion about $40 million. Cleveland, goes deep in the playoffs or, and they're 3-3 right now. So we, can pump the brakes a little bit on the deep playoff run for a second, but 3 tough losses. If they were to end up having a great season, it was going to be easy to pay Baker that money. But the problem with Baker being hurt is that there was no pathway to him having a large volume season in a Kevin Stefanski offense. They just don't do. Kevin Stefanski just doesn't give his quarterbacks a huge passing volume because of how he likes to operate with the run game. So if Baker misses multiple games with a shoulder injury, statistically, it's a hard sell, especially if Case Keenum plays well, to get him to that $40 million mark or whatever he wants to be. And it might end up where you push the decision another year into the future and you try to see what Baker does in his 5th-year option. That to me is a really fascinating storyline to watch. And we saw Baker, it looked like, I thought he was going to be done for the year when he landed on his shoulder last week. And just, JJ Watt immediately is calling trainers over. It looks like a really bad injury, and he's probable to return when he goes out of the game, and he ends up coming back in. Tough dude, but in a weird spot from that contract perspective.
And Will, I just, again, want to emphasize, per my information, it is not just the terror. He's dealing with something else that really should make it a consideration for him to really take care of it. I think it's with the fact that it's the non-throwing shoulder just gives him that but it's not my throwing shoulder. So whatever, it's just, it's just there. I don't need it.
Yeah. It's like, it's just my other shoulder.
It's just my other shoulder. Yeah.
But so I've got this, I sustained a foot injury on the right side of my foot a couple of weeks ago. And so naturally, I'm over, I've been walking on the left side of my right foot, and walking like an idiot. And now the left side of my right foot hurts. So I just have a busted foot, what I'm saying? Baker is playing the game, it can be his non-throwing shoulder all you want. It still affects how you operate physically,
especially if he lands on it. And and per what I was told, again, is something else that sometimes I remember things that I hear, and then I'm like, oh, I forgot to say this too, that somebody told me.
Who amongst us doesn't?
I know, right? But someone told me that that he and Nick Chubb had to be forced not to play this game. That they really would have played this game, and both had to be told, sit the what down. It's not happening, and we're just going to have to go without you. But you're really right, Will. Even though Baker's not playing in this game, so many interesting things to watch. Between Jedrick and Vaughn and OBJ, if he even plays, and what happens with him and Case. Is it a Nick Foles, and Alshon Jeffrey situation?
Oh, Lord of mercy. We saw we've seen with Odell Beckham, the stat, there's this weird stat that's out there where it shows that the offense is worse with Odell Beckham on the field. We talked about this last week. It's probably more fluky than anything else, but that's what I'm saying. If Case Keenum is the one who can kickstart Odell's season, and again, if he plays, that there will be chatter about that and what the Browns will do at quarterback in 2022. Really quickly before we get out of here, are there any other quarterback situations for next year that, there's probably a lot of them, but that warrant monitoring, that you've got sort of red flags about or your eyebrows raised on them? Panthers maybe with Sam Darnold, the Steelers with Big Ben, certainly. Anybody in particular that you sort of think is kind of on your radar out there?
Well, definitely the last one that you mentioned with Ben Roethlisberger. I think that the Steelers would be wise to kind of be Patriot-like in that sense. I think they're already past Patriot-like in that sense in terms of making sure that you do it ahead of time and not at the time and beyond the time.
They might have missed that window already.
Right. So I would definitely say that. Sam Darnold has to, stay on track with, what's going on there. But at the same time, because they did, move on from Teddy Bridgewater, he may have an additional leash just because you don't want to look too herky-jerky. Then that, I feel swings the pendulum back on the decision makers. Yo, what are you doing? As far as, making sure that, a quarterback has enough time to actually lay his roots. To be honest, Will, I would have to think about that a little bit more just to kind of, give you an even more in-depth answer with that. But I did want to really quickly just circle back to something that you said with regards to the connection with Odell Beckham Jr. and Baker Mayfield. I want to just kind of clarify this for your listeners who, are just kind of listening to this part of the conversation. I would just say, from, everything that I understand, behind the scenes, one of the bigger frustrations has been the ball not getting, when Baker is playing at times, not going to Odell Beckham Jr. when the play is designed for him and he's the primary option read. That's like a thing behind the scenes. Okay. And so, that's a thing behind the scenes. So that's something that needs to, be cleared up. My understanding is that it happened again in the last game, not necessarily from Baker, but from, another player where it was supposed to go to OBJ, and had it gone to OBJ on this one particular play, and I know exactly what play it was, he would have had over 100 receiving yards, because it should have been a 70-yard touchdown for OBJ. So it's not so much sometimes what you see when you're watching the game. It's what people know what the call was and what it's
going back and looking at what should have happened versus
what should have happened. That is trust me when I say that's a deal. That's
it is a situation worth monitoring. It's something potentially percolating out there.